Hi everybody, my name's Theresa Wasiloski and I'm a movement artist with the PACE Art program in Lafayette, Louisiana. Today our lesson is about light and its relationship to objects. So we'll learn about light today. We're also going to learn about a special kind of move called a non-locomotor move. And at the end of our lesson, we're going to create a shadow dance. It's really going to be a lot of fun today. We've got a couple of supplies that you're going to need, okay? So for our warm-up, which we'll get started on in just a second, we'll need a piece of fabric. I've got a scarf that I'm going to be using here, but if you don't have a scarf, then a towel or really any kind of fabric would work just fine, okay? And then we'll need a light source for our shadow dance. So one light source that would be really easy to use would be a flashlight, like I've got this flashlight right here. If you don't have a flashlight, you might need to ask a grown-up, but you could use another kind of light source. And we'll talk more about light sources in just a minute. For our shadow dance, we'll also need a wall or a screen. Now I can show you how to use a sheet for a screen, but you'll definitely need a grown-up's help to do that. But if you can't use a sheet for a screen and a grown-up isn't available to help you right now, then you can definitely just use a wall. Make sure if you're using a wall that has windows that you use a wall that windows that you could close a curtain on or close the blinds on. Like you can see my windows in the back have the curtains closed. It'll be important for our room to be a little dark to do our shadow dance. But again, we can talk a little bit more about that later. Remember, you can pause your video at any time if you need to get any of your supplies or if you need to see anything or hear anything that we've done again. So if you want to pause your video and go ahead and get your fabric, that would be great, and we'll get started with our warm-up. Okay guys, make sure you've got your fabric. We're going to start off holding it in front of our bodies. So the fabric is in front, our bodies are behind, right? And I'm holding mine by the corners. So if you need to pause it to get your fabric ready, you can go ahead and pause the video. Otherwise, let's get started. So we'll start like this with our feet together and holding our scarves by the corners. Right, so we've got our scarf in front of our bodies.
I feel like everything is rising.
So while we're moving our scarf up and down, I'm going to talk to you about relationships. So right now our scarf has a relationship to our body. It's in front of our body. No, it's up top and down low. So our body is behind the scarf and the scarf is in front of our bodies. Okay, now we're going to change the relationship between the scarf and our body. The scarf's going to go behind. Let's go a little faster. All right, keep it behind your body. A little faster. Okay, now we'll go around our body, so it's a different relationship. The scarf is going around our body. Good. Change your arms. We'll go around the other way. So now we're changing the direction that our torso is moving and that our scarf is moving. Now we're going to make our body go around the scarf. Now we'll go above our body and below our body. Above our body and below our body. Good, let's get our corners. So when we stay in one place when we're doing our moves, that's called a non-locomotor move. So these are non-locomotor moves that we're doing. Scarf is in front, our body is behind. now the scarf is behind. A little faster. All right, around. The scarf is going around our body. Other way. So these are all non-locomotor moves that we're doing. So we stay in one place. Aha, but this one is a locomotor move because we travel. Ready? Here we go. Now our bodies are going around the scarf. Oh, let's go the other way. Alright, let's get our scarves ready. Now our scarf will be above and our body will be below. Scarf is above, bodies are below. Alright, now let's do the scarf below. It's going under our legs and our bodies over the scarf. Alright, now we're going to take our scarf with one hand. And we'll take a big bow in our scarves. Great job! Alright, so let's talk a little bit about light. What is light? Light is what helps us see. It's important because without light, we would not be able to see. So light has to come from a light source. Now, there are different kinds of light sources. Source means where something comes from. So one source of light that's very important to everything that's living on our planet is the sun. We've got light that comes from the sun, but there are other sources of light too. There are like electric lights, like lamps, and lights that come from your TV screens or your tablet screens. Light can come from fire as well. We also have light that comes from the stars, and the moon is a source of light. Light doesn't come from the moon, but the moon reflects sunlight that hits it, and the reflection is light that bounces back to Earth, so we actually get what we call moonlight too. So light is actually made up of little tiny particles called photons, and light travels in waves, kind of like sound travels in waves too. So light's going to come from a source, like, let's see, we've got my flashlight right here. So this is a light source too, right? It's a source of light. Light comes from here and it travels and until it bounces off of an object. So if it hits an object, it's going to bounce off. You can see it hitting my hand right there, right? So when the light bounces off the object, those waves bounce off. If they reach our eyes, so those light waves reach our eyes, and our eyes send a signal to our brain that says, hey, I see a hand. So that's how light helps us to see. So light helps us to see everything that we can see around us. And if there is no light, then what we would see is dark. So right now, you can't see me because my hand is blocking light from coming in to the camera lens. And now you can see me because I moved my hand. So light has a different relationship with different objects, different kinds of objects. And I want to show you about what I mean by that. Well, first let's talk about relationship, right? So when I say the word relationship, what I'm talking about is like how two things are related or maybe like kind of connected to each other, like what they have to do with the other one. So if I had my scarf, like we were doing spatial relationships between our scarf and our body. So the two objects, the two things that we're talking about is a scarf and our body, right? And the relationship had to do with the space around us. So right now, the scarf is in front of my body in the space around me. Right now, it's over my body. Right now, it's on one side of my body. Now it's on the other side of my body. So that's an example of a relationship in space, but we can really have lots of different kinds of relationships. So let's talk about when light can pass through an object. Aha, so I have this glass bowl and my light source right here, my flashlight. You can see the light coming through on the other side, right? So when an object can have light pass through it, we call that object transparent. It's transparent, meaning we can see through it, right? So when light has the kind of relationship with an object that it can pass through the object, we call that transparent. But sometimes some light can get through an object and not all light can get through an object. And that's where we can see the light kind of coming through kind of blurry, like this scarf. So we say this scarf is translucent, right? Also, the curtains behind me are also translucent. So that means it lets some light through, but not all the light gets through. So we can see, so when an object is translucent, you see some light, but you don't see the clear details that you do like when an object is transparent. So this is translucent. And the last one that we have is opaque. So an object that is opaque does not let any light through. So I've got a little tennis ball here. We're just gonna see, I'm gonna shine this light. Oh, no light gets through there. So we would call that opaque. Okay. So when something is opaque and no light gets through, sometimes we have a shadow. So I'm going to show you how that works. So I'm going to take this opaque tennis ball and I'm going to put it on one side of my head. And I've got the light source on the other side, right? So no light is going to get through this tennis ball, but there is light kind of going around it. You can see. You see the light going around it. So you can see where the light goes around the tennis ball, and the tennis ball actually creates a shadow. You can see it on my face right there. Okay, so we are getting ready to do our shadow dance. We're going to create some shadows of our own. So now is the time that you will need a light source. You'll probably need a grown-up's help for this. So you might want to pause the video and get a grown-up's help. So we'll need a light source. If you have a flashlight, I'm going to show you how you could use a flashlight. But if a grown-up is helping you, you could use other sources too. You'll also want to find a wall that you can use that's kind of blank. If it has windows, you might want to close the screens or the blinds, and the room might need to be a little dark to do this next part. So I'm going to show you and help you out. So we'll gather those things up and I'll see you in just a second. Okay, so before we make our shadow dance, we have to make sure that we can make a shadow. So I've got my light source right here in front of me. So whether you have a lamp that you're using or a flashlight, make sure it's safe to use, make sure a grown-up's helping you, but you want to have the light source pointing towards the wall. So whether you're using a wall or a screen, we're going to use this curtain right here. Your light source needs to be pointing towards it. And then your body is going to be in between. So if I put my body right here in between, you can see when I get closer, it's making a shadow on the wall. Now you might not be able to see this shadow very closely, but if I move away, the shadow will actually get bigger. So if I get closer to the light source, my shadow gets bigger. If I move away from the light source, my shadow gets smaller. So when you're doing your shadow dance, you can actually turn and face the shadow so you can watch and see how your shadow dance looks. Next is the relationship between our arms and our head. So first our hands will be, or our arms will be on the side of our head. Our hands are touching our head, and we're gonna go sideways. 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5 and 6, 7 and 8. So the non-locomotor move that we're going is kind of swaying side to side, okay? And then the next move is our arms will go around our head. So we'll go around 1 and then we push away 2. Around 3, push away 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Our next move has to do with our hands and our feet. So gonna go away from our feet. So we're gonna bring our hands out to the side this way, and we're gonna kick our feet out the other way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I almost lost my balance on that one. Now our hands are going to hit our feet. So we're gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And that is the move, or those are the moves for our shadow dance. Let's do it one more time together. So first our hands go into each other, so they're moving towards and away. They're to each other, away from each other. 3, 4, our hips move side to side. 5, 6, 7, 8, we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, we raise them up. We're touching each other. 6, 7, 8. Next, our arms and our head. 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5 and 6, 7 and 8. Then our head and our, we go around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Then our head and our feet go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Hit your foot. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Whew. Did you get it? I hope you got it. Okay, let's try it with some music and with my whole, my shadow's getting bigger, my whole shadow. Okay, here we go. Okay guys, so I hung up a sheet in my house to use like a screen. You can see the sheet behind me. It is translucent because you can see some light coming through it. So I've got my light source behind the screen, and you can tell not all of the light is coming through like it would a transparent object, right? Just some light is coming through, so it is translucent. Now, in just a moment, I'm going to go behind the screen to do our shadow dance. But I wanted to tell you, I've done this dance before with other friends. So if you have like some brothers or sisters, some siblings, or even some grown-ups that might want to help you, you could have 2 other friends hold up a big sheet too while you do your shadow dance, and y'all can even take turns doing different kinds of shadow dances. So we'll get started in just a second. Ready? 5, 6, 7, 8. Our hands go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Hands together. 4, reach them up. 5, 6, 7, 8. Arms and head. Our arms are on the side of our head. Now they go around our head. And push away. All right, our hands and feet go away from each other. And now our hands hit our feet. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, we did it. Thanks so much for joining me today, for learning about light with me, and for creating a shadow dance. I hope you guys create shadow dances of your own. Remember that we'll be posting a new lesson at 10 o'clock every day on the Acadiana Center for the Arts YouTube channel. We'll have a lesson for kindergarten, for 1st grade, and for 2nd grade. Each of those lessons is tied to the academic curriculum. And you can also get these lessons now on AOC as part of the Learn United program. It's accessible on AOC on Cox Channel 16 or LUS Channel 4. Kindergarten lessons air at 8 a.m. and 1st and 2nd grade lessons air at 9. Some lessons will be in visual art and some in creative movement. So be sure to come back and make art with us tomorrow. If you're interested in supporting programs like this, visit acadianacenterforthearts.org, the nonprofit who manages the PACE Art program. Spread the word, share our videos, and keep making art. Thank you guys. See you next time. Bye-bye.